Oh no!
Free falling. Oh,
This
free falling.
is like the old symbolic
How come the spikes aren't
standby.
killing me now?
How can I survive several miles fall with, like... Oh, we land... Actually, no, the water would probably kill us upon
Kill you.
landing there.
Yeah, yeah, your bones would break on impact. But well, from a fall of that height, you might be dead before you hit anything, actually. But
What would kill you before you...
just the fall.
The fall? Like, falling that long would... Oh, wow. The human
Yeah.
body sucks. Okay.
Well,
Well, we're not exactly built for falling that kind of a distance.
You fall at a certain speed for a certain amount of time, and it can fuck with you.
Right.
But in any case, the whole falling thing, though, as I was about to try and say, was it's kind of like the old symbolic standby for depression. You know, plunging, falling, going down.
Help, I've
it's
fallen
kind
and I
of-
can't get up.
Yeah, it's one of the more basic images there.
It works.
So yeah, it works. It's not exactly new broken ground, but you know, it's certainly more impressive when it leads us to a level that's this goddamn beautiful.
Oh yeah, this
This
is
is
one of my favorite.
gorgeous.
This is one of my favorite
Yeah.
levels in the game, I would say.
Here's one of the weird things about the control, though, that we saw it with the feather slightly in the last part, but the feather flying thing is full 360 control on the control stick.
Yeah, so it's kind of you're
Oh,
kind of
so
intended
this is-
to play it with the control stick there because the angles can be more precise if you use a control stick as opposed to using
The
a
D-pad.
Yeah. I mean, it's not impossible to play that kind of game with a D-pad. That was basically Nights into Dreams, but huh. What, is she already down at the base of the mountain? Is that what's happened here?
So basically,
Jeez.
we've fallen below the base of the mountain, basically. So we're technically lower than even where we were at the beginning of the game, pretty much.
Now, this is actually a really interesting moment because I think this is the main point of the whole two Madeleines thing. She has this moment of seeming inspiration where she's talking like she just needs to leave this behind, and it looks that was painful. It looks for a moment. It looks for a moment like it's going to work, but then it just doesn't.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of the big messages about the game in general is that getting over depression, anxiety, what have you is...
Well, one, you don't ever truly get over it.
Yeah, that's true, but let's just say coping with it is not as simple as just like, oh, like pretending that it's not there. For example,
Not just a matter of the game making a statement about coping with it or how hard it is. It's also just an expression of something that frequently does happen to people who are dealing with these kind of issues. Namely, you might have those moments where you think you've got a handle on it. You think you have permanently cured yourself even. But, you know, a lot of the time that's going to be kind of a false stop.
Yeah. It's
And-
basically the game's big message is about learning how to live with it as opposed to learning how to get rid of it, which is actually kind of...
Because you can't get rid of it.
Yeah, that's actually, again, like a lot of what, like if you talk to a therapist or whatever, a lot of the time that's kind of what they're kind of teaching you to do, because you can't get rid of it so much as you can learn to live with it, pretty much. It's basically
Right.
the only way to really do it. Oh, so that's something I kind of wanted to talk about with these, whatever these things are, thwomps, whatever. So obviously this game has momentum, and if you're on a moving platform and jump off of it, you will be pushed farther than if you were to jump normally. The game kind of has a little bit of leeway with that sort of thing, where if you're just a little bit late with the jump after it's done moving, the game will still let you move forward with that extra momentum, because we kind of saw it there where it stopped for a split second and then Ryan jumped off, and Ryan still had the full force of the momentum even though he was a little bit late. And I appreciate that, because it gives you that extra little bit of leniency that you might not expect that you have, so that you don't have to get everything frame perfect jumps on the first try for example.
They'll start expecting you to do that on like B and C sides, but
Yeah, but yeah.
Thinking about it, considering the whole depression thing, I am kind of I'm kind of understanding the decision to have the game be really, really nice about being a hard game.
Yes.
Because
I mean that's part of like the story in that battling this, as Ted mentioned, is hard, in that you're also going to not succeed a lot.
Yeah.
That's not. I'm not talking about that.
Oh.
I'm talking about the decision to make it really nice about being a hard game was probably at least partly in service to the idea that if you're making a game about depression and anxiety, you're probably going to get a lot of players who have depression and anxiety issues. So making it a game that discourages is not necessarily a good idea if you want to keep your player base around. You know?
So
you're going to exhaust them, even if they aren't necessarily the type to be automatically put off by it.
So there's a line coming up, I believe in this level, actually, where you're talking to the old lady again, and she says there's nothing to feel bad about with taking a break and coming back later. Like, she's talking about, like, you don't have to go, she's telling Madeline at that point that you don't have to climb the mountain all in one go, which is basically the game saying it's alright if you can't handle this now, like, if you can't beat the game now, because you can come back later and try again. Which, again, is a metaphor for the depression angle, but also, like, a lot of games will make you kind of feel bad for not playing them or for giving up on them or whatever, like, or not beating them or... Oh, I've done that too. Trapping yourself.
What was it? We Fit, where, well, if it isn't blah, blah, I haven't seen you in 10,000 months.
Basically, yeah. Or, like, the big one is Animal Crossing, you know, where it's just like, you haven't been here in forever, everyone's gone, we hate you.
We Fit kind of has a reason to be that way, though, because if you
I know, I'm poking fun at it.
Yeah, if you don't keep up with an exercise routine, you're not going to get anything out of it.
Yeah, basically. But some other games, you know, like, you feel bad if you feel like you can't beat it and you give up on it. Like, sometimes it's not even the game that does it. It's more like yourself. It's just like, oh, you feel bad about having 16,000 games in your backlog that you never finished or whatever, you know?
Man, I've got way too many open world RPGs. Way too many.
Yeah. So this game kind of... I like that there's dialogue in the game that's not shaming you for, like, okay, if this is still too tough for you, there's nothing... You don't need to feel bad about taking a break from it, you know? Like, you can always... It will always be there for you to come back. Especially since it's a digital game and not physical, so you can't sell it back to GameStop. Haha, bitches. We have your money. Wait, I think that's not the point they were trying to make, but... You know.
The other thing, though, is that sometimes taking a break is the best medicine for a tough game.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty common thing in fighting or very competitive games.
Oh,
where you kind of plateau, and the best thing to do isn't try to push it, is to take a bit of a break and unlearn some of the stuff.
Yeah, like, when I've been playing a lot of Splatoon lately, and, you know, you lose game after game after game. It's really frustrating, and you kind of have that mental thing of, okay, I gotta play until I win at least one. But you're going to be way more angrier after you win that one game after 5 more losses than if you just turn the game off after, let's say, 3 in a row, and you're like, okay, I'm just not on top of my game at the moment, I'll come back tomorrow. Basically, you need to stepping back and realizing that it is just a game and you're doing it for fun, and if you're not having fun, you shouldn't be playing, is something important to learn, basically. Like,
yeah. That, and, you know, just
unless you're doing what we do and we have to play some shitty games for you guys' amusement, but...
Well, taking a break, even a short one, can sometimes just be what you need to get past a specific challenge. It's hard to talk about why, because there's not really any one reason, but there have been a lot of times when I've gotten stuck at a game, a specific challenge, and I've just put it down for 15 minutes and then come back and gotten it on my first try. It's weird.
It simultaneously feels really good and really annoying when you do that, though, because it's like you spend an hour on something, you take a day off, you come back, you get it on your first try, you're like, why did that give me so much trouble? You know? She's part of you, so take this knife, and if you stab yourself, maybe she'll pop out. Wait, oh, sorry. No, never mind. I was thinking of something else.
That's my side hobby.
What? Nothing. Yeah, that's the line I was talking about. Like, someday you'll be ready and you can come back, basically. Like, I mean, this lady is kind of a jerk, but, you know.
More dialogue options.
So much dialogue. How does she even get around everywhere? Is the cane
She
just
has that little elevator thing.
Oh, she does have the elevator. Why can't we just take the elevator up?
Because that's not the point.
Damn it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Bye now.
Oh, okay.
I think
Oh, I love
the
this
first
part.
step of healing is confronting the problem. Yeah, walk straight into the anxiety. Somehow, I don't think that's the wisest thing to do.
I love this part of the game, though. This is especially what they do. Like, this game we talked about has a great soundtrack, but it has a dynamic soundtrack in that it will add instruments the more you go through a stage, which isn't abnormal. A lot of games do that, but
Don't tell me there's a secret down that really, really narrow space.
No, it's a shortcut.
it's a shortcut, but it's super precise. Like, this one's easy because you can line yourself up with the wall to go down there as opposed to taking the long way. But it probably will take you less time to go the long way around there because it's actually not dangerous. You just have to, like, be patient.
It's there for speedrunners.
Yeah, basically, if you can line yourself up with it precisely enough, then go right ahead, but you'll probably die.
Infinite dashes in water. Oops. Jerk move.
You see, it's kind of disappointing, though, that they took out the water level, because the way that the water kind of works in this game, I'm actually, like, infinite dashing in water actually sounds pretty cool. Like, what you could...
I'm just not sure what kind of gameplay mechanic you would use with that, though.
That's true, but I would have liked to see it, I guess, is maybe...
Yeah, well, if they cut it out, it might just be because they couldn't make it work the way they wanted it to.
That makes sense. Because there are a couple of other sections with water in the game, not just this level, but it's really minor. Like, I think there's a bathtub in the hotel level that you can technically swim around in if you want.
Yes, it was. Because you threw me down a fucking mountain.
So this is also another thing that I really like about this game, and it kind of... in a storytelling sense, I really like what they do with here, because I'm pretty sure most people here are familiar with the traditional, like, introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, story curve. Like, I'm pretty sure that's basic middle school English. I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with that. This game, in a lot of movies and games, the climax is at the very, very, very end of the story. Like, the last 30 minutes is the climax, and then, you know, like, there's...
Love this track, by the way.
Oh, it is so good. One of the best in the game. So, like, the last 5 minutes will probably be, like, falling action, and that's literally, like, the last cutscene before the credits or whatever. This game, I would actually say that this sequence right here is essentially the climax or final boss fight, but there's still...
Well, it's the only boss, but...
Yeah, and then the falling action is the stage after that, although... Ironically, it's a rising action because we're climbing the mountain. It's symbolic of junk, probably. But I like that this game actually does try to make that part of the game kind of an actual thing, because there are almost no games have a true falling action section where you actually get to see the results of what you did. It's just like, oh, we have a big epic boss fight and now the game's over because we want to end on that exciting...
We saved the world!
You want to end on the climax because that's the most exciting part, but there's so much more to explore after that, and this game actually does take the chance to do that, which I really appreciate.
Well, it's hard to work that kind of a structure point into a gameplay experience is the thing.
Well, that is true, but this is also something that you see in a lot of movies too, particularly action movies or whatever. Like, for example, Star Wars. Like, there is no falling action in Star Wars. You blow up the
Death Star, and then they get the medal ceremony, and that's it.
Yeah, basically. And same thing with... Like, Empire Strikes Back has a little bit more where, you know, the climax is, I am your father, and then, like, you have, like, maybe 2 minutes of them picking Luke up afterwards, and then it's over, you know? So...
Yeah, I get you.
And basically every superhero movie is like that, too. Like, you beat the bad guy, and there's maybe 5 minutes of sequel bait at the end, and then you keep
on the flip
going.
side, then you have Return of the King, which is like 20-30% falling action.
Yeah, basically. Which works better in a book than in
the book is 50% falling action.
That's okay. Good point. Yeah, nobody needs to.
Because you have the goddamn saving the Shire bit.
Yeah, nobody needs that. But yeah, it's. I think this game, because the way that they do the next level too is so well done, that while this is effectively the climax of the story, it doesn't feel like the game's just padding time at the end, but it's still exploring the kind of stuff that you're trying to... It still has more story to tell, which I really
The padding time is unfortunately the 8th level.
Yeah, the 8th level is basically just an epilogue, for lack of a better word.
It's like not even that. It has no story significance whatsoever.
It's basically, okay, we wanted a bonus level, so here you go. Here's a bonus level. And, I mean, at that point, you're not playing really for the story anymore, but it would have been nice if they could tie it in maybe a little bit better. But, you know, like, it is good to see, like, because it's, like, 1 year later is basically what they do with it. So it is nice to see, like, what the characters have kind of done in that time, but it's still... You know, I guess it could have been handled a little bit better, I suppose, in that sense. But again, at that point, you're playing for the gameplay anyway, so the story is kind of not really the point.
So, this entire sequence where you're fighting Shadow Madeline here is moving steadily downward.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, again, supposed to contrast with what we're doing next level, which is climbing up the mountain really, really fast.
Down equals depression, climb equals the struggle to get out of it. You know,
yeah,
it's
again,
symbolic.
The basic imagery for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, granted, there are just certain visual symbols for things that kind of transcend cultures, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Then we're just kind of hardwired to notice.
Yeah, like, there's a reason why in so many songs and books you'll see stuff like fire or rain being symbols for whatever, and you'll see it no matter what culture the book or story came from, basically, and it's because that they're so tied in with basic human experience that they match no matter what, you know? It's like, it's even to the point where there are some basic fairy tales that are nearly identical across different cultures. Like, there's stories in all different cultures that are very similar to, like, Pinocchio or Cinderella, even if it's from, like, Asia or whatever. I can't remember the actual names of the other examples, because I learned this in a class
there's also
like 5
stuff
years
like,
ago,
there's also stuff like, I know this mainly because of Persona, but Izanagi and Orpheus have very, very similar stories.
Yeah, a lot of mythology, especially as well. You know, you'll have like tragic figures like that all over the parts, and there's a lot of common ground there. And I'm sure that some of that does have to do with stories being passed across cultures, but a lot of it is just that humans experience similar things to the point where, you know, people are going to tell similar stories just by accident, basically.
Yeah.
You know, like kind of like how it was mostly a coincidence that DreamWorks and Pixar both released a movie about ants at like the same exact time, you know?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
No, that was purely DreamWorks trying to undercut Bug's Life.
Oh, okay, never mind. My bad.
A better example would be not quite the same thing, but there were 2 comics called Dennis the Menace that came out at the same time, one in the US and one in the UK.
Oh, man. That's... Wow. Alright. Ooh, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, I lived, bitch.
Oop.
Oops.
Yeah, so
And up I go.
you have to hit her in order to go on to the next room. So
Yeah.
it's not like...
You can skip her.
Yeah, and also nothing in this game, as far as I can tell, is random either. The way where the projectiles are is all dependent on where you are at the time where she fires them. So again, if you're trying to speedrun this game, if you're playing the same way every time, everything should be in the same places every time you do it. Which I know is something that a lot of people who speedrun games really appreciate, is when there's not a lot of random crap, because then it doesn't feel like it's the game's fault when you die a whole bunch.
Yeah, well, randomness is something you can, as far as a speedrunning sense, is something you have to be able to prepare and mitigate for.
Yeah. It's like, again...
Because I know speedrunners harp on RNG, but I think RNG is part of the process for a lot of speedruns.
I think a lot of games need it, too. Also, like, especially, like, again, maybe a platformer like Celeste doesn't really need any randomness at any given point. But an RPG without randomness would probably be really, really boring. Honestly, like, if you're playing Fire Emblem and you knew every single time whether or not your attack was going to hit or miss, that game would get really boring.
Well, that's how they speedrun it.
Yeah.
They take away that RNG because they manipulate the numbers.
That's true, but I'm just talking about playing a game casually or normally.
Yeah, trying to replay Final Fantasy 13 is a bit of an unexpected drag because of the complete lack of randomness. Like, you're always fighting the same enemies in the same places, and you're not gaining anything unexpected or making any significant choices about character growth, at least not until really late in the game. And then on top of that, it's always one strategy to beat every battle.
Steel Guard!
Yeah.
You see, Lightning is supposed to seem unreasonable for not wanting Snow to marry her sister, but at the same time, would you want your sister to marry Snow? Think about it. Yes.
Now it's time to talk it out.
Yeah, we just need to... If we would all just talk to each other, video games would be a lot less violent. Yeah, but seriously though, this game does pretty much feel like a horror game in many spots. Like, especially with Shadow Madeline at certain points. Like, especially level 5 and earlier parts in this stage. It's surprisingly effective, and probably, I wouldn't say... Maybe not scary is basically the best word for it, so maybe the word horror isn't the best term, but...
Hugs.
Hugs. Aw.
And so Madeline awakens her persona.
Kind of.
Basically. Because you get the ability to dash twice now when you level up.
Rank
her hair
up.
turned pink.
Yeah,
Yep.
so you can now dash twice in the air, basically. Huh. The level up doesn't really mean anything. Kind of like when you collect strawberries in this game, you will collect points, but it's not tallied anywhere. It's just for shits and giggles, pretty much.